Okay, welcome to our third installment of our instructional videos on the order of operations. And in this particular video, we're going to be working with grouping symbols, simplifying expressions that contain grouping symbols. And when we use this term grouping symbols, we're specifically referring to the brackets, which I'm going to underline so you can see what I'm referring to, as well as the grouping symbol that you should be familiar with, which is the parentheses. So we're going to be solving expressions or simplifying expressions that contain both parentheses and brackets and how to work with those. Now, one thing that you want to keep in mind, of course, is your order of operations and your mnemonic to help you remember the order of operations, PEMDAS, or please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, which you should know by now stands for parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, and addition and subtraction. Now our expression here in example A, we have 10 divided by, and in the brackets we have 9 minus, and then in the parentheses we have 2 times 2 here. Something that you want to keep in mind when you're solving expressions or simplifying expressions with multiple grouping symbols, you want to complete the inside operations first. That means your operations that are most inside the grouping symbols, you want to do those first. Or another way of putting this, you want to work inside and then outside. You want to gradually work your way outside of the grouping symbol, solving these or simplifying these expressions. So if we look at the most inside operation, we have multiplication, and that's the multiplication of 2 times 2, which we know has a value of 4. Then we're going to move outside of that parentheses, and we're still inside our grouping symbol, which is the brackets, and we have the 9 minus. So now we're just going to do 9 minus 4, and 9 minus 4 has a value of 5, which I'm going to write up here. So the total value of what's inside our brackets is 5, and now we'll bring in what's outside of the brackets, the 10 divided by. So now we're dividing 10 and 5, and we know 10 divided by 5 is going to equal 2. So our first expression will simplify to a value of 2. Now let's look at our second expression. In our second expression, we have 2 and it's next to 13 minus 4 divided by 3. Remember, we're working inside then outside. So working inside, 13 minus 4 has a value of 9. And then as we work outside of our grouping symbols, 9 divided by 3 is going to simplify to a value of 3. So the total value of what's inside of the brackets here is equal to 3 once we follow our order of operations, working inside then outside. And now that just leaves us with this 2, which is outside of the brackets, and that's going to be multiplied times 3. And we know this because anytime a number is next to a bracket or parentheses, it just means we're going to multiply that outside number times that inside number. So here we're just going to be multiplying 2 times the quantity that was in our brackets, and that quantity was 3. Well, 2 times 3 is going to simplify to 6. So the value of our example in letter B is going to be 6. Now our third example. 3, and it's right next to something in parentheses, so we know we're going to be multiplying here. 3 times, and in parentheses 1 plus 10 minus 2 over 4. Now, we've got a lot of different expressions, we have a lot of operations going on. We have multiplication, we have addition, we have subtraction, and we have division. Even if we were working inside of the parentheses, which one do we do first? Are we supposed to add first? Are we supposed to subtract first? Should we divide first? Now, following the order of operations, you would think we're just going to divide. That fraction bar just underlined indicates we need to divide. And normally you would do division before addition and subtraction. However, because it's written in fraction form, we have 10 minus 2 on top of our fraction and 4 on the bottom of our fraction, this 10 minus 2 is supposed to be treated like a single quantity. It's almost like your numerator. 10 minus 2 is your numerator and 4 is your denominator. So if we are to treat 10 minus 2 as a numerator and 4 as our denominator, then what is the value of 10 minus 2? Well, if we were to do 10 minus 2, that has a value of 8. So now our numerator in this fraction, or our first number in this division problem, if you want to look at it that way, is 8. And we have 8 over 4, or 8 divided by 4. And 8 divided by 4 is going to give us a value of 2. So we know that this little mini expression, 10 minus 2 over 4, is just going to simplify to 2. And if we add that to our 1, let's just rewrite our work over here. We have 3 outside the parentheses, and then we have the 1 plus inside of the parentheses, and we know that 10 minus 2 over 4, we already simplified that to 2. So now continue our work inside the parentheses. 1 plus 2 is going to give us a value of 3, and I'm going to keep that inside my parentheses. And then we have our 3 from the beginning that was outside the parentheses. Now you know when these two are next to each other, separated only by that grouping symbol, that indicates that we need to multiply. So this is essentially 3 times 3, which is going to simplify to 9. So our total value of our expression is 9 here. So now this has been our video series on the order of operations. You want to go back and review these 3 videos from time to time. Honestly, you cannot review these videos enough because this is laying down the foundations of pre-algebra and algebra. You're going to have to follow this order of operations for the remainder of the time you're going to be doing any kind of mathematics. You want to go back and review these videos, making sure that you're following things in the correct order, making sure that you're performing operations in the right order, making sure that when you have multiple